So the thing about having bronchitis and the thing about being severely jet lagged and the thing about having bronchitis and being severely jet lagged and taking just a boatload of what was previously over the counter medicine, and I saw the doctor earlier today. So now I got some like the real kind of good shit that I'm kind of using to like slap down this thing. And the thing on top of all of that is waking up at 1:30 this morning, staying awake the whole time, and then trying to sleep for 30 minutes prior to like recording this intro is like mentally. I have started recording this intro with you guys about 12 times so far. And I keep on waking up over and over again. And I'm like, no, that wasn't real. It's 4:25. I woke up again. No, that one wasn't real. It's 4:30. So I'm saying all this right now with really, really the hope of this being the real one this time. As soon as we finish this, I can get some copies.
John, wake up, John. John, you're in Valkenvania. Wake up.
We can neither confirm nor deny that this is real, John.
Am I seeing double? Oh no, that's just John Candy. Really having fun with it. So this is our January 2025. This is our kind of contemporary sort of new intro for an episode that we did back summer of last year, just before we kind of went like fully public with the podcast. This is the 1991 Dan Ackroyd, his first and only directorial, directorial feature, grand opening, grand closing for him with like such a flop as is. The studios deigned to call this movie Nothing But Trouble, which was lame.
You remembered. I was going to test you on this. I'm like, he's so drugged up right now. There's no way he'll remember this, and he'll just keep saying Valkenvania over and over.
Right. But this is, like I said, this is from our Saturday Night Live lead cycle that we did right before we went fully public, and I believe this one was Andy's pick. For me personally, Nothing But Trouble, which I will be referring to as Valkenvania for like the remainder of this intro and how many other intros I have to like do hallucinogenically over like the course of like the rest of the day. But Andy, this one for me was one of the real sort of great surprises of the pod. I went in not expecting too much, and I really had like a great time, just front to back.
John was just like, I like trouble. Let's see what happens. And he's like, oh, nothing but trouble with this one.
Nothing but a good time.
It is a good time.
Let's Chanka.
It is a good time. Yeah, Chanka. That's right. It is a good time. It's just fun and stupid and kind of gross and silly and all of the above. It's kind of nonsensical, and it's got Chevy Chase being a dickhead.
Literally.
Well, that's Dan Ackroyd being a
Dan Ackroyd, yeah.
Being a literal dickhead.
Yeah, I was like, Chevy Chase being himself.
Yeah. Several people in this movie, like the film starring Chevy Chase, Dan Ackroyd, John Candy, and Demi Moore, with Ackroyd and Candy sort of both playing multiple completely crazy roles in the film. Demi Moore sort of just being kind of tossed around like a real doll the entire time. Chevy Chase seeming to be like he's in a completely different movie. So, and then to say nothing of, Humpty Hump and Tupac.
Throw them in there.
And them there with the full band doing a full performance.
Yeah, there's a musical number. That's insane. Dan Ackroyd on piano. Did he actually play piano for that part?
100%. He must have been.
He must have. It was. Yeah. It's you can't explain it. The best part about this movie is I didn't know what to expect going into it. I saw the big names. I thought it might be good, and I remember seeing it. And I watched this one twice. I do remember seeing this one twice, and I didn't think much of it. I probably said that it was good, but this is one of those movies that as soon as you guys mentioned, let's pull this one out of the vault,
Right.
I got really excited
Mm.
because I don't know why I have all these like fond memories of it. Something about it. It's so unique, so different. It's so messy, and it just works. For some
I
odd
say this
reason.
at several different times in the record, but it's still to this day wild to me that this hasn't been rediscovered, the reclaimed, like the way some like the John Carpenter, like The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China famously kind of flops at the time, but sort of kind of, kind of loco genre defying, defining decade defining movies kind of at this point.
Yeah.
It's so strange to me that this one is still as obscure as it actually is.
True.
It's also odd to me. I mean, I guess maybe not from a financial standpoint, but it's odd to me that Dan Ackroyd hasn't had an opportunity to write another one or direct another one. I know, again, studios were like, well, you wasted however many millions of our dollars, but at the same time, like, I think there's a lot of people out there that would love to see what else he's got cooking.
He was a Ghostbuster, you know?
Yeah.
He was a fucking Ghostbuster. Like how many chances have other far shittier, far less famous, far less interesting directors? That's the entirety of M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan's career. Like, let's just give him one more shot.
Yeah. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan made what, maybe 2 good movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And everything else has been kind of garbage, and they just keep giving him millions of dollars to make more.
It keeps going.
Yep. U-Bowl is another one. U-Bowl. They keep giving him video game movies to make, and he keeps making them, and they're all terrible, but he keeps making them.
Sort of amazing we don't have like a U-Bowl, like a sort of like movie on like the video game adaptation thing we're doing right now. Probably for the sake of our mental health, it's good, but
it could be. Maybe we need to do a U-Bowl cycle.
We could do a Wii bowling cycle.
That would be more entertaining, I think.
Yeah,
actually.
I'll do bowling. You do tennis. What else is there? Golf.
There's fencing if you get
fencing
the
if you get the
boxing.
But everybody figured out with the fencing thing, you just go.
I wish that the audience could have seen that hand gesture, Johnny.
Right.
That was really floppy, and that was not because of the drugs.
Super floppy.
John was trying to absorb the vibrations, and his wrist was just not having it.
Let me read like the top-rated reviews for Valkenvania off of Letterboxd right here. It's just one paragraph, and I think it's like such a great like summation like this film. But this is a 4-star review from Letterboxd user Tim Kopp. And he says, there's a moment in this film when Demi Moore is playing cards with Dan Ackroyd as one of 2 giant, greasy babies in diapers, while Chevy Chase is about to get married to John Candy in drag, with Digital Underground featuring Tupac doing the wedding march that I knew all was right with the world.
Amen.
No better summary of this.
Well said.
So I would say for this recording, like the itself, certainly one of the really kind of good surprises of the pod, and then one of the real sort of legitimate surprises of the pod. One of the few times I think I've been left sort of truly speechless is the way that this episode actually ends, and that's with Eric pulling out like a bit of writing that I did back in about 2006, 2007, as for like our sort of base segment for our little kind of divergent way. Yeah. So, Papa, you want to tell us about that, like real quick before we go?
Oh God, the backstory behind this. I don't want to ruin the surprise. I want people to discover this on their own.
I think we leave it.
Yeah.
All right.
This needs no intro. All I'm gonna say is after this record, it sat with John way too long.
Yeah.
So that's how good it is.
Yep.
That's how good it is because that's how bad my writing was in like 2006.
Oh no! I
didn't think I was great back in the day. But I had
we'll leave it up to the audience to decide.
Nope, it's classic. It's quintessential Johnny.
Yep. Yeah. I think the best part is when you're just like, I wrote this. Yes. Oh yes. Yep. Right. I've got evidence.
Good stuff.
I don't think we should even leave it up to the audience. So I think for this particular one, only God can judge me.
Only God.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Maybe that's it.
So anyway, this was our episode 17, Valkenvania, aka Nothing But Trouble, aka the movie that ends with a post-credit scene of Tupac holding up the newspaper that says January 2025, and then he just looks right into the camera, says, "Good luck with the election, fuckers," and just it was an incredibly front to back.
Yeah. He's like, if I live that long.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, so please enjoy.
Yeah, pull up
Enjoy,
a hot
everybody.
dog. don't pull up with a hot dog. Don't pull up a hot dog.
Yeah.
Pull up a hot dog and enjoy.
Take a big sniff first, though.
Big sniff. Choo choo! Here comes the hot dog train. Chugga chugga chugga.
All right. Welcome to episode 17 of Rebels Without a Pod, the show that dares ask the question, wait, is that Tupac? I am Johnny Vegas, the voice of reason, and we're joined today by Andy the Merch King with Ice Pick Eric subbing in on the ones and zeros. Levine is still on his honeymoon, however, and I cannot believe I have legitimate reason to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, there is another Skywalker. Joining the pod as our first guest chair, an old and dear friend, twin it to win it, Ashley to the Beans, Mary Kate, pack up the dogs. It's Uncle Chacho himself, Napone Shada, is joining us on the podcast. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Welcome.
I got to ask a question,
movie.
by the way. I'm Nipun. I'm confused. What are you doing here? Because aren't twins supposed to do everything together? I mean, there's a honeymoon going on right now, so I'm just saying.
Only identical twins.
Got it. Okay.
They're always together because they're always getting up to shenanigans.
Yeah.
But I'm very sure Napone would rather be on a Hawaiian cruise than just kind of talking to us three idiots like on a Friday night.
That's
Here
fair.
we are.
Completely fair.
Yeah.
Or in Hawaii talking to you. That'd be great, too.
Yeah.
Hawaii
exactly.
involved somehow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
For today's movie, we have the 1991 film Nothing But Trouble. But first, gentlemen, any announcements, corrections, coercions? What do we got?
I got a few.
Okay, shoot.
Uh-oh.
So, first of all, on the last pod, I promised that. So Eric asked me the question if there was something our listeners don't know about me, and I completely blanked. And I promised that I would come up with something for this pod. So I figure there's no better way to start off a comedic, movie watching kind of pod than to talk about Crohn's disease and colon cancer. So,
Okay.
Jesus. I shouldn't be laughing. Why did you set me up for this? I was promised this was a funny podcast.
So this is
Going deep now.
Yeah.
Going deep.
Right.
this is.
I'm really worried this is going to circle back to the human centipede at some point.
I mean,
If you eat a lot of shit.
it might happen. Could happen. So I guess to keep it short, something that and I just let the cat out of the bag. Something that listeners don't know about me. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 1996, I guess it was. I have been in and out of the hospital a couple of times. I did have a surgery in 2012 where they actually removed my colon. They did what was called a subtotal colectomy, where they basically pulled out my colon, plugged it into the butthole region, and sent me on my way. When they did the pathology on the colon, they found out that actually I had colon cancer. They didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. They pulled it out of me. So I had cancer without knowing I had cancer, and then there was basically nothing that needed to be done thereafter. So it was the best case of colon cancer anybody could possibly have ever had. But my PSA to everybody listening, go get your colonoscopies. Get it done. It's important. And anybody that is afraid that it's going to hurt or that it's going to be too gay or whatever the hell other stupid reasons they might have for not doing it, just get over it and go do it. Not to mention the fact that you get great drugs if you want them, and they make you sleep better than any other time throughout the year. So I genuinely look forward to my colonoscopies every year because I know I'm going to get one really good day's worth of sleep. And also, I don't know, some kind of joke that ties in with the human centipede. So there's the answer to that question. Also, another follow-up from last week. Eric, I am still patiently waiting for you to send me your book.
Oh, yeah. I was actually going to bring a picture I drew of. So I was really into illustrating for a while, and I drew some pictures for the book. So I was actually going to bring something, but I didn't today. So,
son of a bitch.
It's a teaser. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm still waiting for that, and
it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
Okay, I was dead serious when I said it. So, Napone, just to give you the quick rundown, since you didn't hear last week's pod, Eric had some ideas about wanting to be an author of basically, I don't know, young adult fiction. Is that accurate, Eric?
Sure.
Something like that. Wrote what I thought sounded like a really cool idea, which we're not going to repeat for fear of further trademark infringement, I guess.
Yes, the idea's
like
already gone, but
yeah, probably, but that's okay. How many times are we going to write about? Are we going to have books that are about the chosen one child that goes to the magic school that somehow is involved with gods and monsters and whatever the fuck else? So you can have your story, and everybody else can have theirs too.
Thank you.
A lot of untapped potential there.
I was like, are you describing like J.K. Rowling or Rick Riordan? I couldn't tell, but it's all good. All the above.
All the above.
He's just going to fax you a page one by one, by the way. So
yes. So anyway,
the first thing you have to do is go out and buy a fax machine. So that's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
It definitely
it's so long.
So anyway, it sounds like a cool idea. I told Eric that I want to read it, and he left me high and dry. But that's cool. He's a good friend. It's fine. We'll move on.
I did. I know. And then you paid me back in spades today with that wonderful confession about colon cancer, and so I mean. I
Welcome
guess
to the pod, Napone.
I take back my question from last week.
Too late.
Ugh.
Okay, so that's all I got.
Sweet. I just want to tag on that like a little bit. Napone, like a little sort of context for the pod. The last episode was the first time. It was the first podcast I actually had to skip. Naveen being on his honeymoon as well, it was just Eric and Andy. They spoke for 2.5 hours on a very, very wide-ranging kind of number of topics. Just art and creativity and music and human centipedes and just kind of like everything in between.
We connected on a deeply personal level. So
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's,
ass to mouth, not ass to mouth, ass to anus.
Ass to
anus to mouth.
Depends what order you're in the.
We'll edit that out in post, guys. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm the caboose, so I mean that doesn't change.
That's true.
The podcast, I decided to kind of put it on. It was like I couldn't sleep. It was about like 11:30 at night. It had a very interesting start to it because we usually have like a little bit on the top of the podcast. We say we're Rebels Without a Pod, and we're the show that kind of dares ask a question, and it's usually some nonsense that I make up. Because Eric was moderating last time, he chose a very interesting way to start the podcast with "Welcome to Rebels Without a Pod," the show that dares ask the questions. Do we really need 4 hosts? Really interesting kind of jumping off point. I'm like, where is he going with this? And then about like 5 minutes later, Eric gets into, Johnny's going to die in a mega quake.
It was just a possible thing that could happen.
I mean,
you
know what, John, they've been threatening this for years. Right. I mean, it's like the apocalypse or something. Everybody's like, it's coming, it's going to blow up all of Japan, there's going to be nothing left. And then it's just like it's a small bump.
Mm-hmm. So, like I started about like 11:30 at night. This was not something I had actually read about at all, so I had to pause the podcast for a few minutes, and that certainly kind of wasn't great for my insomnia. Yes. But I ended up kind of blazing through all 2.5 hours, like in like a single stretch. It was. You guys really kind of talked about everything. Like I said, you started the Shire, you went all the way out to Mordor and back. I was thoroughly entertained the entire time.
I
It
feel
just
like you're overselling it, but thanks.
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you. It was. I mean, honestly, we talked 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Towards the end, I was just like, I didn't even realize how long we had talked for. But I mean, we had covered so much, and what felt like maybe it was like a half-hour conversation turned out to be, 2 hours added on. So
it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
The only thing I could say, like the thing for this being like the first podcast I've actually sat out, the thing that was just kind of scratching on the inside of my brain the entire time was just how much at kind of different points I kind of wanted to be able to kind of jump into that conversation. So that's an intense enough feeling that you sort of get, listening to podcasts by other people who are friends. But when it's your actual sort of friends talking, it's just it was just wild to me that just how fun and how engaging of a listen that was.
Yeah, good times.
You guys are gonna have to do you and Naveen on a separate one. Then.
They already did.
Yeah,
nice.
We've kind of had most of those permutations like at this point. Like I don't think Eric and I haven't had like an individual one, but I think we'll be sort of like looking to rectify that soon.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Let's get into kind of what have you guys sort of been. We usually talk at this point. What have you been like watching, playing, listening to? I think there was some interest in talking about Deadpool and Wolverine off the bat for this part.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I have so many notes
Great
about
movie.
this. So many notes.
Great movie. Yeah.
Good notes or bad notes or both?
Oh, it's total mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. The proudest thing I am that Ryan Reynolds said in the movie is he called himself the Marvel Jesus in the hopes that he could save the MCU, which I believe he did. So
I believe the MCU needed saving as well. So
yes.
Yeah.
I have to say I thought the movie was just so much fun from start to finish. Talk about playing fan service in the best possible way, giving us all the things we wanted that we hadn't seen and had been asking for years. I mean, we're not going to say anything that hasn't already been said a million times on, online or whatever. But I mean, it was just so much fun and scratched so many itches. I can't wait to see it again. I can't.
I want to say that the biggest thing that hit me when I was in the middle of the movie, enjoying the shit out of it, was I should not have watched that movie alone. I should have had my friends there because I'm sitting there and every time like an Easter egg or something popped up and I got so excited, I'm looking around and I went to see the movie at like 10:30 at night. And so it's like an empty theater. And I was like, nope, nobody, no. Couple college kids. But yeah, that movie, I mean, I forget. I think maybe Johnny said it like, maybe you said this to me offline, but you're like, it had no right to be as good as it was. And I was like, that's so true. Like, I did not think it would be this good, and then it just blew me away. So,
right. I had the good fortune of meeting up with a couple friends in Tokyo. We went to like a packed theater, like on a Friday night, which is exactly the way to see it. I kind of had like a little apprehension of it, of like, okay, they're getting Hugh Jackman back for this, so is this just going to be kind of just dumb, embarrassing, kind of like in jokes and fan service, and there'll be some nonsense cameo, and people sort of be like applauding, like sort of trained seals, whatever else. The moment in the movie where,
hey, by the way, do we want to announce that we're going to be doing spoilers? I mean, the movie spoiled us, so I think we're allowed to give spoilers. I think if people don't want to listen to the spoilers at this point, they could probably pause this and jump back on after.
Yeah.
But
jump ahead like 5 minutes.
We have to do this.
Yeah. I just, for me, like the moment that it was for me of kind of, first Channing Tatum walks out dressed as Gambit, talking like Foghorn Leghorn. And then Wesley Snipes comes out as Blade. And Deadpool looks at him and goes, "Wow, Blade, you're so cool." And Wesley Snipes looks at Ryan Reynolds. He's like, "Man, I never liked you." And I'm sitting in the theater like, the whole place exploded. Everybody kind of grinning ear to ear. It was just embarrassing. But again, dumb boy movie for boys. But I just had such a
I gotta say this. Every time, yeah, like you said, Channing Tatum, every time he said something, I was like, what did he say? Sometimes he said nothing. Sometimes it was hilarious. The best quote that I had to look up online and I knew was there was, he goes, wow, I ain't know my daddy, but I'm sure I showed out his dick ready. Yeah, he was laying them buttery nuts all up in my mama. And I shot out there and said, what's up, Doc?
When did he say that?
Oh, yeah, that happened. That happened.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I missed all the gibberish that came out. That's one
fantastic.
beautiful diamond.
Yeah, beautiful.
What did you think, Napone?
I'd have to say it was a great movie. One deciding factor is a great movie is when I go to a movie with my wife, if she stays awake through it, it's probably a good movie.
I was about to ask how Teresa kind of dealt with that one.
Oh, she loved it. She thought it was great as well. It was a rather interesting movie watching experience. We went at like a early afternoonish time, and there was a bunch of kids there. I want to say like 8 or 9. They were laughing at jokes that I have no clue how they even like understood it. There was a joke about something about a vagina. I'm like, you even know what that means? Like, how does that work? And I wasn't even laughing at it. I was like, it was funny, but it wasn't that funny.
Yeah, but come on, vagina to a 9-year-old? That's a 9-year-old boy?
Yeah.
That's funny shit.
Yeah. I
Also,
probably would have.
Best or worst parent,
Vagina
by
to
the
a bunch
way.
of 44-year-old boys. That's still pretty
Yeah, you're right. For me, the part that I found to be just the most, I actually audibly gasped was when Deadpool and Wolverine explode out of the back of the bus that they've just killed all the variants in.
Yeah.
And they do the slow motion and Wolverine's like all in like the Wolverine pose with, elbows back and he's got the teeth oh my God. I was just like, yes, thank you so much. I was so happy in that moment. Like I want that picture framed on my wall. I was so happy about it.
I will also say about the film, Hugh Jackman legitimately acting his ass off in this movie.
Yeah.
True.
Really
Yeah.
getting a performance. Yeah.
For sure.
Dude,
Yeah,
what about
it was
Dogpool?
Dogpool.
Every time Dogpool popped up, it made me really happy.
Yes.
Just licking his mouth and Ryan Reynolds licking
I
his
thought
mouth
I was going to
back
be
and-
very uncomfortable with
Yeah.
Dogpool, and you're right. Every time he came on screen, I was like, "Oh boy, another scene! Fantastic!" I need an ugly dog like that now.
Something else that I heard was so at the beginning when they have NSYNC do like Bye 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 and Ryan Reynolds does the whole dance thing, ripping apart like Logan's spine and using it as like weapons, which was beautiful. I didn't realize, but NSYNC went and had their video updated on YouTube. So the actual caption for the video says NSYNC Bye 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 official video from Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I was like, nice.
I was really unaware that the Gambit movie had been something Channing Tatum had really wanted
hearing
something
for like a
about
long
it.
time. Kind of,
Yep.
Yeah, and then the Henry
Yeah,
Cavill
he's been
thing
talking
was
forever.
the Cavill thing was not like a like anything they had in the works. What it was is I think Ryan Reynolds came up with like if I was gonna like cast a new Wolverine, who would be like the best person for it? And then everybody loves Henry Cavill, so he's just like Cavill or Calverine, whatever he calls him. Calverine. And then I heard in an interview, somebody asked him like, "How did you get him to do the film? That's amazing. That must have been really difficult." Or like, "How was that like conversation?" He goes, Ryan's like, "Oh, dude, I just kind of came up with it on the spot." And then I was like, "Hold on a second." Texted him. He's like, in 15 minutes, I had him.
Wow.
no kidding.
Because he was
so
just
great.
Yeah, he heard about being in a Deadpool movie. A lot of people when they're asked, can I use your properties or do you want to be part of a Deadpool movie? They're just like, yes. It's not even a conversation; it just happens.
I didn't even realize that was Henry Cavill when
Yeah.
he came
Yeah.
out. I was like, who's that?
Yeah, who's that dude?
I just like that it was a middle finger to DC. As well. Like talk about a dude who was so underutilized as Superman.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
really,
in my opinion, best Superman ever, maybe for me.
okay, yeah.
Christopher Reeve was great, but I think Cavill completely was the right fit for that, and they blew it. And this new guy, David Cornsweet, I'm not so sure about.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Have you seen anything else that the new Superman actor is going to be in?
Not to my knowledge. No, maybe, but not that I'm aware of.
Right. It's interesting. We're really going to have to see with how the new Superman is going to go. I would be skeptical about it, but the James Gunn Suicide Squad that he did a few years ago was I think very possibly my favorite movie of that year. And
I haven't seen
what
it.
I've been reading,
Same.
It's surprisingly good. It's the complete inversion of kind of just how miserable the original Suicide Squad was. They cast Pete Davidson in it just to kill him off in like the first 4 minutes of the movie. It's a little bit kind of like Deadpool adjacent. It's just one really fun thing after another.
I'll have to check it out. I didn't like the first one. The first one I thought was just garbage.
It's complete garbage.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
The vast majority of like the DC EU films that came out, there's
Oh, dude, Wonder Woman was it 1984?
They kind of had like their defenders kind of here and there,
or 84. It was
That was horrible.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on top of Deadpool, any other sort of recent sort of watches or listens? Anything else that people sort of want to shout out for what they've been into?
Did you guys see the trailer for the new Jason Reitman Saturday Night? By the way,
Yes.
No.
how do you feel about it? Do you think it will be good?
I think trailers always make things look better than they're actually probably going to be. But I actually think it's going to be better than I thought it was before I saw the trailer. Before the trailer came out, I was like, it's probably going to be a good movie to watch, but nothing special.
Yeah.
And I think the trailer did a good job of making it look like something special and something cool coming out.
Is that the one that's about SNL?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got to check it out. I have not seen it.
It's literally about like the first night, the first episode.
Yeah.
It was apparently just complete chaos, kind of behind the scenes, and it just the show barely worked functionally. This has been a thing they've wanted to do for like a really long time.
It looks more serious than comedic.
Yes.
All I'm hoping is for Jason's delivery. Hopefully, this is more like a Frozen Empire than like an Afterlife. Because I don't know, man. He's got the chops. He can do it, but
he's extremely good at
comedy.
As a director.
Yeah, it's got to be equal parts serious, equal parts comedy.
Right. That's going to be that. I'm going to go to it. I'm a big enough of an SNL fan, and particularly when you kind of look at that first year, they had Andy Kaufman on the show doing stuff. They had Jim Henson on the show doing kind of just weird, kind of dirty sort of puppet shit. Like there was so much when you kind of go back and you watch those early ones. It was really a far more kind of experimental and bizarre show than kind of what it sort of kind of crystallized into over time.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that that Andy Kaufman piece was on the first episode of Saturday Night Live, and that's like an iconic kind of sketch these days.
Right. Well, kind of on the topic of Saturday Night Live, do you want to get into the movie?
Yeah, let's
do it.
Sure. Okay. So, got some notes here. Nothing But Trouble is a 1991 horror comedy by Dan Ackroyd, his sole directing credit. It stars Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, with Ackroyd and John Candy playing multiple supporting roles. Synopsis in brief. Holy shit, that is Tupac. Nothing But Trouble was written by Ackroyd and his brother Peter, taking inspiration from, I think this is interesting, Hellraiser, Beetlejuice, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Road Warrior, a 1978 speeding ticket, the subsequent Midnight Tea Party with the affiliate judge, the coal-fire blighted ghost town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, and a journal of Dan Aykroyd's own dreams. The film was both a commercial and critical flop. It grossed just $8.4 million against a $45 million budget, effectively ending Aykroyd's directing career after just a single film. Rotten Tomatoes lists its approval rating at 15% among professional critics. A low score, although I did note 4 points higher than how Rotten Tomatoes currently ranks Opportunity Knocks.
Oh, wow.
Writing for the AV Club, Nathan Rabin said, quote, Ackroyd embraces icky prosthetics and repugnant makeup with the outsized glee of a virginal Fangoria subscriber, but neglected to add gags to his constant gross-out attacks. Roger Ebert particularly hated the movie, refusing to even provide a written review. He famously joked to Gene Siskel on their show that at the screening, he'd asked a group of noisy teenagers at the back of the theater to talk even louder to drown out the film. Okay, so general impressions. Let's start with Andy. Andy, this was not only your pick. So Napoleon, the way that we've been doing the show is we've been doing cycles of kind of 4 episodes apiece with an individual theme, and each host for one episode will pick the individual kind of movie to talk about. So we started with kind of just generally like a cycle of just kind of movies we just sort of generically liked, and then we kind of did like a cycle of kind of teenager and coming of age movies. After that, we had like a little vote. Everybody submitted a couple possible themes for like the next kind of batch of episodes that we did. Andy's recommendation, which I believe was like the second highest, got the second highest number of votes, was actually doing movies with SNL Leads. So not only is this Andy's pick for the cycle, but the cycle itself was Andy's pick for kind of like the batch of for like the next kind of batch of episodes that we're doing. Andy, I'm very, very curious because this particularly for this cycle, this is definitely kind of the outro weirdo pick. Tell us about your thinking. Tell us about your thought. When you started doing the pod, did you have in the back of your mind, I need to make the guys watch that movie where Dan Ackroyd has a penis?
I agree. I did not see you picking this movie at all. Yeah. So I think you have a freaky side. That's all I'm going to say.
I have to say I'm surprised too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So
get all the way in.
All right. So let's see. No, to answer your question, Johnny. No, I didn't come into this this whole thing with the idea that I had to make you watch this. You guys watch this movie at some point. The history of the movie for me, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I've mentioned before the Situate Playhouse cinema that I used to go to in the harbor, where all my buddies used to work, and I would get in for free into movies that I was far too young to be going to by myself. But nevertheless, at 11 years old, I went to see this movie at Situate Playhouse. And then subsequently, HBO showed it incessantly. It was on, 3-4 times a day, it seemed. And anytime I couldn't figure out what to watch or whatever, and I was flipping through the channels and I got to HBO, which, if memory serves, I believe was channel 31 on my cable, it was there. And I would, it was just fascinating visually. It was just different than anything else I'd ever really watched. Not being a horror guy to begin with. And not that this is, I really don't think this is a horror movie. It's kind of a gross out movie, but I do not think it's a horror movie. But being that I hadn't really watched a lot of horror up until that point, or at least I hadn't in many years, I don't know, I gravitated towards it because it was just so weird. So because I watched it so many times, I had very fond memories of it. Prior to this watch, I hadn't watched it in probably 20 years, maybe. I don't know. Since probably early to mid 90s, that would have been the last time I watched it. I was a little worried that when I came to it this time around, I was gonna be like, oh God, this really was as terrible as everybody says that it was. And maybe arguably it was, but was it really that bad? Because I kind of still liked it. I still enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. Maybe I was looking through rose-colored nostalgia glasses, but man, I just thought it was fun. It was different than a lot of the stuff that was coming out at that time.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. The thing I was thinking is, watching this, and then growing up as a kid watching like Beetlejuice, Goonies, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, weird movies like that, I'm like, I think that kind of sets you up for this kind of movie, so it's more palatable. Thinking about like, our son's age or something like that, I don't think this would fly at all. I think they'd be like, this is dated, it's not funny. Who's that weird creep with like a penis on his nose? My kids did. They made me repeat that scene. Like I replayed that scene like 10 times. Because the first 3 times they couldn't actually see it, and then when they saw it, they couldn't unsee it. So it was like a Magic Eye poster or something. I'm like, oh, I see it now. I see it. It's like,
did you have to describe it to them, or like they just kind of
you know what I said to them? It's just the tip.
I don't remember.
Nicole, what do you think of this one?
I was going to just say, I don't remember when I first watched it, or several times first watch it. I don't remember the dick nose.
Really?
Like that did not land with me back then at all. I missed it totally.
It kind of hides in plain sight. It's so kind of gross and over the top, but it's just like you said. It's a similar kind of thing. Like what I remember seeing that scene and just having to stare at it for a second before figuring out what Dan Ackroyd was actually going for in that shot.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know why they included that in there. I think myself personally, growing up looking at highlights magazines in the doctor's office, my brain was like prepared for that. I'm like, oh, that's penis. There it is. right there on his face.
Yeah.
And there's another one up there in the tree.
Yeah. Check the tree. It's banana fish.
What's your take, phone? What did you think?
So, going into this, I was like, I remember this. Well, I remember seeing the movie. I couldn't say I remember everything about the movie, and it was enjoyable. Like as you said, it was something I liked watching, but it's not something I would go back and be like, that's a great movie, we got to watch that again, or like I got to show my nephews or nieces, or like I got to let people watch this movie. I was like, I enjoyed watching it. It'd be something like if it came on TBS or TNT or USA, I'd probably watch it and not be mad about it.
Right. Was Teresa able to stay awake the entire time for this one?
She decided not to watch this one this time, even though she did say that she wanted to. She kind of decided against it for whatever reason.
That was the right call.
She was just tired when I started it.
I mean,
no,
it
that
would
was
be
the right call.
great if she saw it and she's like, Nipun, let's chonka! And then you guys chonka all night? I don't know.
Right. It's just I was watching it on my iPad at the apartment. My girlfriend came in. My girlfriend, being a very big horror movie, she watched about 30 seconds of it and was just like, "Yeah, no, thank you." So I got back up and started cooking a stir fry.
Let me ask you guys this: I saw a lot of reviews online where people are like, "It's not funny." They're like, it's supposed to be like a horror comedy, but like none of the jokes are memorable. I don't know. I took notes and I did write down some of the jokes. So I was just curious to see if you guys had picked up on anything you thought was funny outside of like the weird physical humor.
I didn't think of anything that was. I was just gonna say I didn't think there was anything that was like funny. Like what you expect?
Not laugh out loud.
Like if you were watching the movie with your buddies or something, and then afterwards you kind of like repeated a bunch of quotes from the movie. Was there anything that you think you would have?
Not that I could think of. Now? I mean, for me, it's. I like Chevy Chase, so like I just like his delivery and his like dry, like kind of random things. So, like that's not what's
a lot of it's deadpan. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But he doesn't do a lot of like jokes which you like repeat.
Yeah.
Smells like Sao Paulo.
Yeah, there we go.
That's my favorite one.
Right.
I wrote down 3 jokes that I thought were great. First one is, and it's right at the beginning. It's what's Fausto's sister's name? Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Yeah. She goes. This Ronaldo. Is when she's like, it's like Fausto and Ronaldo are in the elevator, and they're like, Chris. And she's like, I save it for you. And Fausto's like, she says that to all the guys. I was like, this is going to be a good movie.
Yeah.
And then
truly amazing that he had the balls to basically put like a Brazilian minstrel show in like the first like 30
Yeah, yeah. The other one I liked was when Demi Moore gets out of the elevator after talking with Chris, and they'll meet the next day, and he's sitting there and he's holding a bunch of her stuff, and he's like, "Thanks for the espresso maker and the bag of shit." I was like, "Yeah, that's Chevy Chase. That's pretty standard Chevy Chase." The other one I enjoyed a lot was let's see. Oh man. Okay. It's when they arrive at like the Reeves place and they're like driving to his house, and then there's all that weird like sculptures and stuff like that in his yard, and then Demi Moore's like, "Oh, he must be into folk art," and then Chevy Chase is like, "Folk 'em."
It was kind of an interesting, either kind of like a sort of directing or acting choice to have Chevy Chase read out loud every single sign and every single newspaper that they see throughout the entire film. Yeah.
They had that thing with the 3 dolphin heads, and he's like, "Oh, that must be where they buried Flipper." And then you hear like Fausto and his sister, they're like, "Flipper's dead?
Flipper's dead?"
I don't know, man. It's just like a kind of general thoughts for me. Like I really had a great time watching this. I also completely understand why people hated this in 1991. You know, it's there was a really excellent episode of like the Flophouse podcast they did a couple years back with John Hodgman kind of guesting on it, where they talk at length about the movie. A really good point I think that they kind of raised on that episode was this has even if you've never seen it, this has a poster. This has a VHS box cover that if you sort of look at, you do remember from the video store. But it's one of those things of like it's kind of incongruous because it's a poster that has a bunch of famous people on it, but it's a movie that you've just never ever heard of at all. And I think for at least kind of us growing up, where there wasn't the internet, we didn't necessarily have kind of access to kind of criticism or information about like kind of movies as easily. That was kind of like a type of film of like, oh, there's a bunch of famous people on it, but this is a completely unknown movie. It is kind of like a sort of like a warning sign of like, this is probably a stinker. This is probably not something kind of worth the time at all.
When I picked it, I kind of assumed that actually when I picked it, I thought that everybody would have already seen it. I don't know why I thought that, but I assumed that everybody would have seen it. When I found out that wasn't the case, I thought, there are more obvious SNL cast member, movies that you could pick, whether it's, I don't know, Wayne's World or Coneheads or,
Amigos,
Happy Gilmore, like whatever it is.
Fucking Ghostbusters, you would have counted for like this thing.
That's right, absolutely, or Animal House, right? Whatever, there are some more obvious ones than this one, and I just thought it would be really fun to pull kind of something that was totally out of left field. That was not a critical success. That was Dan Ackroyd's only directing credit, and see if it was as bad as everybody said it was, or if it was as good as I remembered it being. And it's somewhere in between, I think.
Yeah,
it's just a fact that in 1991, this is 5 years before even like the Dana Carvey show, which Napoleon we talked about a couple episodes ago, which basically sort of was so weird that it just kind of got just kind of chased off the air like a few episodes early. This is a decade before the Adult Swim stuff. This is certainly kind of years and years before kind of just randomness and meme humor kind of became like in vogue, like the way that it actually is. You could kind of argue that it was maybe kind of like ahead of its time. I feel like this movie would have not sort of been liked if it came out today, but it might have come out with like a little bit more of like a cult following. I'm honestly like a little bit surprised that this doesn't have more of a reputation of actually kind of being a cult movie that was kind of derided for its time, but has like a kind of like a smaller number of just kind of more intense fans that still kind of think and talk about it and kind of show it off to their friends.
So we're running out of time on this particular one, and I think Eric wants to do a quick audio check. So let's break here, and then we'll come back for the next one.
Sounds good. All right.
Cool. All right. Later. Let's see.
All right, and we're back. Napone, at this point, we generally, after kind of giving general impressions, we have a few kind of questions, prompts for kind of talk about the film. These are sort of things largely written by whichever host kind of picked the movie for like the week. So we have from Andy here, present a 4-sentence version of whatever Dan Ackroyd's pitch might have been for Nothing But Trouble to the movie studios. So who wants to go first with this?
It was my question. I can go
I
first.
think you should. I think you should lead.
Okay. So let's see. I have it written down to make sure that I get it correct. Okay. I think we can all agree that Hellraiser is a hysterical movie, right? Well, what if I made a movie that's absolutely nothing like it, starring me, Dan Ackroyd, Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, John Candy, and Digital Underground? I'm going to base the plot on that one time I got pulled over for speeding and was brought to the local justice of the peace in the middle of the night for a trial. What? Oh, four sentences? There's going to be a dick nose.
Yes.
I love it.
$45 million.
$45 million.
$45 million.
They only gave him 40 originally. It ran 5 over budget.
Right. Oh, sorry. Right. Close. Should have known.
It's funny when you were giving your like pitch or whatever. I was thinking about that Key and Peele skit where they're talking about like Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Jordan Peele sitting there and he's just like, "All right, guys, let's come up with it. Let's come up with ideas for Gremlins. All right, what do you got?" And they're just saying weird, absurd shit. And then he's like, "Yeah, I love it. We're gonna put one in there."
They're going around the table. And people are just coming up like the most kind of coked out nonsense possible. And then and then it kind of finally comes back around. He's like, "Okay, great. All of that is going in."
Yeah.
Then you actually look up Gremlins 2. It's like every single one of those completely insane things made it into the film.
So perfect.
I haven't seen that. I got to watch that.
It's good. You got to watch it.
It's very good.
All right. Do you want me to
Who's
go
next?
next? Do you want me to go? I'll go next. I'll go next.
Go ahead.
All right. I took some liberties with this one, so just bear with me. So, sorry, guys. By the way, this is Dan Ackroyd, and he's in front of Warner Brothers execs giving the pitch. Sorry, guys. I didn't really prepare anything for today. It's a funny story, really. I just came from John Hughes' house, and the whole family was there, actually. And we were out back at his place, grilling up some dogs, hanging poolside with a couple of brewskis. And he said to me, he's like, "Danny, I heard Warner Brothers greenlit your movie without even hearing about your pitch. How'd you do it?" And I leaned over to him and I said, "I wrote Ghostbusters, bitch."
That's good. I like
you.
that one a
Thank
lot.
you.
Napone, you have one for this?
It's not as long, but it's basically, okay, we're going to do a Rocky Horror Picture Show without the music. John Candy's a girl, and I have a dick for a nose.
And there's John, like, in the front with, like, the seal laughter going, "Arr, arr, 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 arr."
All right. Here's what I came up with. This kind of calls back like a little bit to the fact I really think again, if this had come out now, this movie had been maybe the kind of maybe like a bit more of like a big deal. But here's what I wrote. So I still have the time machine from the original concept Ghostbusters, where John Belushi and I were going to fight ghosts in the multiverse. Recently, I traveled forward in time 20 years to 2011, where this TV network called Adult Swim has the best live-action shows. Saw The Mole Man, The Heart You Holler, check it out with Dr. Steve Brule, Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. And the greatest thing, none of these shows had to actually be funny. They could just be fucking weird, man. So I figure we do one of those, except it's a movie, and it costs $45 million, and also have you heard of Digital Underground?
Nice. I like it.
All right,
Good
so
stuff.
that's what we got there. Casting what ifs. Would this movie have worked better with lesser-known actors instead of Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, and John Candy?
Who wants to take this?
So I'm going to say if it had been relative unknowns, the expectations, obviously I can't imagine would have been as high as they probably were for this movie. That being said, I also don't think Dan Ackroyd would have been given $40 million plus another $5 million to make the movie. So I don't think this movie gets made without those names and without. So famously, too, the movie was not going to get made because they offered it to a couple of different directors, and all of them kind of said, "No, we're good."
Right.
And the only way
that sounds horrible and also insane. And why does he have a dick for a nose?
Yeah,
there's that too. So I don't know that this movie would have been made at all had it not been for Dan Ackroyd being the director and then that cast being involved. So it's a chicken or the egg, maybe, or I don't know, Sophie's Choice, or I don't know, something like that. One of those.
I thought Chevy Chase was great as the main character. It makes it feel kind of like a National Lampoon movie or something, or like a Chevy Chase movie in general. So I was fine with him helming that. I thought Demi, you got to think it's 1991. She hasn't done much at that time, so she's still like a young actress.
She's
still kind of new.
She's just kind of coming out like the Brat Pack movie. She's only 29 at this film.
Yeah, and she also, I think it was maybe a year before or 2 years before, she had done that Tales from the Crypt episode. And it channeled that so much because she just plays that same kind of character, and it's really bizarre circumstances. So I was like, I was feeling that. I guess the one person I didn't really think needed to be in there, and I guess this was Warner Brothers pushing for him to be in there, was John Candy. Super underutilized. Any of his scenes were all like deadpan. I thought maybe instead of John Candy, I was trying to think who you could pick. Like, for Eldona, maybe he could be the sister still. I'm not sure. I thought if they brought somebody like Rick Moranis in, maybe as Dennis, the cop, he might wing. Because the thing is John Candy's character is Dennis, right? In the film, when it's like Fausto and his sister go to him and they're like, hey, you know what? You need a vacation, and he makes a deal with them. It's kind of like, I'm like, it doesn't feel like his character because he feels so serious about his job as being like the chief of police for all these years for the Reeve. But if it's like, I don't know, Rick Moranis or something, he's kind of like, I don't know, I guess. I never thought about it that way. All right, come on, I'll hide you.
So this may be something I'm just kind of making up, but wasn't Rick Moranis actually kind of talked about playing the lead? Wasn't there some conversation about him being Chris?
Dan Ackroyd wanted to play both the Reeve and Chris.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the Warner Brothers said it was too much. They wanted right. So yeah, the Chevy Chase got pulled in, and then John Candy, of course, doing double duty.
Right. Napoleon, what do you think kind of casting wise?
I don't think it would have got made if it was anybody else. I don't really know who else could kind of cast into any of these. It was released after Ghost, so they're probably playing on some of Demi's like popularity after her probably her biggest movie.
Ever.
Yeah. It's tough to say if it would have got made. It definitely seems like just one of those Dan Ackroyd pet projects that for whatever reason he really wanted to create and get out there.
Right. And just having kind of so much kind of pulling cachet from kind of Ghostbusters and Blues Brothers and kind of like everything else. Like this was he had like a blank check at the time, but like this is the last time he got to cash anything like that because it was such a colossal flop. You look at basically all of his writing credits since then had just been kind of Ghostbuster stuff, and on IMDb, he's just got the single directing credit. Nobody was willing to kind of take a look at him after this.
But the question I have here is, when you think about, if you're putting it into that SNL alumni kind of umbrella, you think about some of the movies that have been made. I mean, Ladies Man, Coneheads, frankly, even though I think I loved Coneheads.
That was a great film, yeah.
But you think about these types of movies that got made. Night at the Roxbury,
Superstar.
The list kind of goes on. Superstar. These are all movies that were terrible. They were objectively bad. This one is no worse than those. It's just maybe the first one that was an abject failure by these types of people. So I don't know. I think it's given a bad rap. Maybe it was just ahead of its time. Maybe.
Was there like an SNL sketch that this kind of derived from?
Right. This was 100% kind of Ackroyd's kind of like own ideas and his own writing. This wasn't sort of based on. Even Ghostbusters was actually, to the best of my memory, was based on a pretty popular sort of 50s, 60s kind of sci-fi like adventure show that was also called Ghostbusters.
That was part of it. It was also the fact that Dan Ackroyd who was it? His family, they believed in ghosts, and so
that tracks.
It was something to do with like his brother or him or his father. They had they believed in ghosts, and they were all into like ghost hunting and stuff like that. And he thought it was such a cool idea because he was so close to it that that's why he just poured himself into the script. I think the Ghostbusters cartoon that was like Hanna-Barbera, they actually had to fight for the rights to get the name Ghostbusters. And so that was like the whole thing that came up with the
there's a Ghostbusters franchises. It's a real Ghostbusters cartoon back in the day.
Yeah, and that's why they call it real Ghostbusters, yeah.
He's such a weird and interesting guy, and I think it's really kind of a shame that we never got to see anything else that he dreamed up, because this one was such a flop. I mean, maybe he never had another idea, or a good idea or whatever. But the stuff that he has done since then, and even that he'd done prior to that, it was always kind of different and interesting. I mean, I think about like the movie Spies Like Us, for instance. I don't know if you guys have all seen Spies Like Us. That's one of my. I love that movie. Fantastic. And that's a weird one. Like it doesn't really make any sense. There's really no reason for these two random guys to be, in Russia and to be in, Egypt or wherever it is that they're at. And it's totally bizarre and off the wall. But it's also really very funny. I just can't help but think that Ackroyd has some stuff in the chamber that would have been really interesting to see, and we're never going to get to see it.
It's true. Yeah.
He's a person, and I should actually kind of dig in and see if there's any kind of podcast recordings, conversations with him. I would love to hear his list of like the books, the comics, the movies, the music that he actually kind of grew up on. To have particularly this sense of humor and this frame of reference in 1991, he must have been into some really just interesting kind of out there shit back then.
Dude, I'm telling you, in this movie, like the characters Bobo and Little Devil, which I'm sure they'll come up again during this conversation. Like holy shit, that has nothing to do with anything about like the experience that he had, getting pulled over and going to see that judge in the middle of the night. Like, it has nothing to do with it at all. He just pulls it out of whatever, his own imagination.
It was based on like a nightmare, I think.
Was it? I mean,
and with zero explanation in the movie.
Yeah.
Zero explanation. Are they human? Are they mutants? Are they aliens? Like, who the hell knows?
I will say this too. If you remember the real Ghostbusters cartoon, the very first episode, there was these three ghosts that were going around. This is the one where they broke into like the toy factory. And then it released this giant monster that was like a Jack-in-the-Box with like mixed with like a teddy bear with all these kind of things, like a tricycle. And it was like the Ghostbuster had to take it down with like a helicopter and stuff like that. One of the characters in that looks exactly like Bobo or Little Devil.
Oh, no kidding.
So I was like,
really?
That's curious. Because that has to be around the same time.
Something he wanted to make for a long time, I would imagine.
Sure.
But I'll say this too. Dan Ackroyd, in this movie, it's the same thing I said to you, John, about like Frozen Empire. He looks like he's enjoying himself so goddamn much.
Yeah.
For the guys that haven't seen Frozen Empire, there is such a charming scene about kind of midway through the movie where kind of Ernie Hudson is talking to Dan Ackroyd, and Ernie's kind of saying like, "You're getting too old for this. Why do you keep why do you keep doing this work? Why do you keep obsessing? And Ackroyd is just this old man, literally just kind of he's grinning ear to ear. He's like, I love this stuff. I love this stuff so much. And it's like the scene is as much the character talking about just what he's doing in the movie, but it feels pretty much a complete reflection of just how much Ackroyd seems to love creating and love kind of writing, and then seems to love writing and kind of coming up with weird shit.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Swekwanizu. How do you pronounce the Brazilian?
You wrote that. Come on.
Swekwanizu.
Try harder, John. Oh no! Wait. This was Andy.
It was me.
There you go.
Right. Brazilian nonsense. Party of two. Was Chris and Diane forgetting Fausto and Ronaldo basic self-preservation, or were they just assholes?
You talk about it at the beginning?
Just in general.
Yeah, because they sort of like disappear from the movie about halfway through, and and when Demi and when Chris and Diane escape, there's not even any kind of conversation. Should we go back to those guys or figure out what happened or whatever else?
Yeah, where'd they go? Like nothing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where usually those kind of characters in movies don't escape. They don't get away, and bad stuff happens to them. Or something weird happens, they have this crazy experience, and in the end they're like, we love the Reeve, and we love it here, and we want to stay here. It's like one of those two categories. It's never like, they're like, oh my God, we got to cross the toxics, and we got to bribe Dennis, and he's going to take us to safety. Like, that never happens. And then they're like, all right, well, we got to do something with them, and all right, yeah, sure. They take Dennis, and they escape.
All right. I had kind of read because Dennis and the Brazilians are just kind of dropped midway through the movie. I kind of had in the back of my mind reading like a bit about it before actually watching the film. I know like they ran out of money. Production was completely insane. So I didn't even kind of think of it like in like a sort of like a just like in any kind of like plot reasoning. It's just the fact you have one shot of Dennis kind of packing up a suitcase and sort of looking kind of forlorn, and then it cuts to Rio de Janeiro at like the end of at the end of the episode at the end of the movie, and it's again completely just kind of disjoint from anything else that was actually happening. I kind of read that as maybe they had a more elaborate kind of end piece planned for this movie that would sort of bring the the Brazilian couple kind of back into it. But they just ran out of time. They ran out of cash, and it's something that they just kind of tried to fix.
I was going to say, you just reminded me of something, too. I watched this movie a second time, by the way. Don't ask me why. It was the second viewing was
so happy.
It was good as the first one. But what I was trying to figure out the first time I watched it is after Chris and Diane get captured, and then they get stuffed in the bedroom, and then they're smoking cigars, and they go to sleep or whatever. Somebody looks through one of the paintings at them, and then all of a sudden the bed spins around, and then the door opens and lets them into the hallway, and that's how they kind of escape. And I was trying to think like, who is that? And then based on like the sequences and the timing, I realized that was Dennis. Dennis had let them go because he made the deal with Fausto and his sister to let them go and their friends go. So that was his little like attempt to let them go, and then he grabbed his suitcase and left after that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not actually put that together at all.
Second viewing, my friend. Second viewing.
Okay. Well, the entirety of this movie is just up there for free on YouTube, so that's something that
I know
you can pull the trigger on anytime you want.
And it was free.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Napoleon, what do you think about that?
The self-preservation part?
Yeah.
I kind of was going with the same thing as Johnny. It was like they ran out of money or something, or they had a storyline. It wasn't. They probably did some screen tests, and it was like no one cares about them, so let's take it out of the movie and just end it with them at the end to give them closure or something. There's probably something else that was really involved there. It just wasn't working in the film.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. All right, going on the next section, Viggo Mortensen's toes. Here we talk either the biggest surprise of the film, or the most interesting trivia? Who wants to go first with this?
Let me ask the question. Who chose superpowers versus trivia?
I did.
Did you? I did too.
All right.
So I don't have any trivia, but I do have superpowers.
All right, let's hear your superpowers.
All right. So Bobo, who was Dan Ackroyd, I think he deserves the ability to generate as many bowls of cereal as he wants whenever he wants them. And Lil Devil, I believe that he should have the ability to generate as many Dianes as he wants whenever he wants them.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I almost did something similar. I changed my mind last minute. My Bobo power was the power to teleport into the house. Because Bobo and Little Devil are not allowed inside the house.
Not allowed in the house.
No.
Right.
And then Little Devil, mine was the power to win at playing cards without really understanding what game he's playing or what playing cards are even.
Nice. let them in the house, man. If nothing, they got to get fresh diapers at some point.
That's right. Yeah. Who's changing those guys?
Ugh, they changed each other.
Ugh. Gross.
Diane, hopefully. Napoleon, you have anything for this section?
I got nothing for this one.
You had trivia, right? Do you have trivia?
Trivia. No. I could look up trivia if you need me to.
You
but...
can tell us any Dan Ackroyd
So,
trivia you want.
I got a few random pieces here, so let me just kind of go down the. I'll sort of just knock through my list real quickly. Centralia, Pennsylvania, like I said earlier, was kind of like a big kind of inspiration for like the setting here. This is, if you don't know, a ghost town in rural kind of Pennsylvania where an underground coal mine fire started. Basically, the entire town had to be like evacuated. The government had to take it over by eminent domain. There's, I think, now just 5 remaining residents, like in the entire city. But it's really just kind of blighted, haunted. You look at like the photos of this town, and it is a real world kind of a horror movie kind of come to life. Centralia, in addition to being the inspiration of Valkenvania, was also a major inspiration for like the Silent Hill video game series. That was kind of like their off point for all the design on that. So the actual the movie itself was going to be originally called Valkenvania before the studios forced the title change. I think Valkenvania like a much better kind of movie title. The Japanese title apparently of when this actually had a theatrical release in Japan as well. The Japanese title was, and I'm butchering the pronunciation here, was Zekyo Yashiki Irashai, or The House of Screams. I think is like again a little bit more evocative. I feel like the 80s and 90s had kind of a movie title problem with just the particularly kind of comedies would just be sort of just named just as boring and generic as possible. You think about Opportunity Knocks, Nothing But Trouble, even Dirty Work, what we're going to be kind of covering later. It really kind of it's so bland and generic. It really kind of tells you nothing. Yeah. So we had that, and finally, getting on on the digital underground side, Shock G or Humpty Hump, depending on who he was performing as. A couple interesting things about him: he would paint his nose cover a different way before every single performance. And apparently, he also died of a fentanyl overdose in a Florida motel in 2021.
Yikes!
That's a bummer.
That's what we got. Yeah. All right. So we're kind of coming up to that's the end of the questions. Any sort of closing thoughts before we get onto the sorbet course?
I just want to mention, because you mentioned Digital Underground, I think we've solved the mystery now of what happened to Tupac. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he ever left Valkenvania.
Tupac's acting debut, I believe.
Yeah.
Also,
they also
one other kind of side.
Did you see in the credits they called him as 2, like the number 2?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, that's before he was established as Tupac, I guess. I don't know.
It's like when we see just when Jennifer Love Hewitt, like in her kind of her earlier roles, she was just largely kind of credited as Love Hewitt.
Yeah, Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Johnny, I gotta ask, did you bring up Jennifer Love Hewitt because of our esteemed guest?
Oh, wait, what? Wait, I got to hear this.
Napone, for the longest time, maybe to this day, I don't know, we haven't talked about it in a long time, was just infatuated with Jennifer Love Hewitt. This is a long time ago, but she was.
I warned you, buddy. I told you this is not a safe place.
Napone didn't just Jennifer like Hewitt.
Oh my God, John, how do you not have kids? Because your dad jokes are killing me.
Man, that was spot on, dude.
I have so much wisdom to give.
You're like, I have 50 more of these. Let's go.
This is the thing about not having children or a job. You have so much more in the tank. All right. So let's move on. Andy and Eric, you both said you had like little kind of sorbet sort of closing things that you kind of wanted to do.
I love it. Are we going to keep that as sorbet? I like that. This segment is called the sorbet segment. It's fun. We can change the sorbet each time or whatever we want to do.
It's evocative, you know.
Eric, I think yours sounds like it's going to be better than mine. So let me go first, and then we're going to close with yours.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So, all right. So, as we mentioned during the last pod, Eric and I we played a little game where Eric read off the titles of Smashing Pumpkins albums and also Green Day albums. The reason for that was because I had just seen them the night before or 2 nights before, whatever.
Yep.
And I had to rank. I had to put them in rank order for which ones were the most had the most sales.
Albums. Yeah, best sales. Yep.
Okay, so I thought, okay, I want to do a game of sorts or a quiz of sorts, but I was kind of coming up blank. I wasn't really sure what to do, and then I decided I'm going to ask my 15-year-old son Charlie questions about the 1980s. 15, in fact.
Awesome.
I'm going to see how many he gets right and what some of his answers are. And, I'm not even going to temper it with anything. So I'm just going to go through this list. I'm going to be quick, but I'm going to give you the questions I asked him. I suspect that you will all know the answers to all of these. Number 1, what kind of car is used as a time machine in Back to the Future?
DeLorean.
DeLorean. Charlie did, in fact, get that one correct.
Nice.
Hey.
What is the name of the villain in Nightmare on Elm Street?
Freddy
Krueger.
Freddy Krueger. Charlie got this one incorrect. He said it was the Nightmare.
Okay.
I don't know where he came up with that.
Partly correct. It happened in the Nightmare, so.
Correct.
This is the kind of movie title we need more of. Just Nightmare. It's right there. It's right there on the top.
Yeah. So which film featured creatures that shouldn't be fed after midnight?
Gremlins.
Gremlins is the correct answer. Charlie did get it right, but he actually, I quote, the one with Greeble. Gremlins. And I went, you mean Gizmo? He said, yeah, Gizmo. So, but I gave him that one, so I'm going to count that one.
Rebo is the Mexican non-union equivalent of Gizmo.
Right.
Que lástima.
What 1987 sci-fi film includes the line, "Get to the chopper"?
87?
1987, "Get to the chopper."
Was it 87? It's
Predator.
But
Is it Predator? Yeah.
It's Predator. Charlie said Terminator. So he was on the right track, but he got the wrong one.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I was pretty okay with that. In which 1985 computer game can you die of dysentery?
Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
He got that one correct. What Georgia-born wrestler, this one's a little bit long, what Georgia-born wrestler is known as the most famous wrestler of the 1980s, has 13 world championship belts, and began pivoting his career towards acting with an appearance in Rocky III as a heel? Do we know?
Hulk Hogan.
This is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
This is how you can really tell that we're all they're all from the Northeast because most other parts of the country, like people would just kind of jump to Ric Flair first.
Yeah, no, it's Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan.
Terry Hulk Hogan.
That's right. That's right.
Terry.
Charlie got that one correct. In the movie Spaceballs, the film renames slimy crime lord Jabba to something far less sinister and a bit more delicious. What is this character's new name?
Pizza the
Obi.
Hut.
Pizza the Hut.
Come on, John,
Nicole,
you knew
I
this
threw
one.
that one in there
No,
specifically.
that was a little kind of joke.
Oogie Boogie?
There.
Yes. So Napoleon has a dog named Jabba and also Obi. Charlie got that correct.
Really?
My
Which
kids
I
haven't
was
seen
very
it.
pleased with. Yeah,
Right.
you got to show him. That one holds up for sure.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
the 80s big on TikTok these days? Because Charlie seems to be doing generally pretty well at these.
No, they're not. He's seen a lot of. Well, he's seen quite a few of these movies, but I think he, through osmosis, has absorbed a lot of this.
Ask him how much came from TikTok.
Okay, I will.
Right.
So we're over halfway there at this point, ish. In Ghostbusters, what is the name of the always hungry green ghost?
He had to have known
Slimer?
this one. Slimer.
He got that one.
He had to.
He
Iconic.
definitely got that one.
That's a sign of
this
being a
one-
good father, by the way.
Yes.
I think so. I think really that's what this whole exercise was for.
Yeah.
Was to know that I'm doing a good
Yeah.
job.
It's kind of a self-review. How have I been as a dad?
Yeah. How have I done?
Check for
okay,
dad.
So I've asked Charlie this question. So I asked him originally this question, and then I've asked him subsequently 2 to 3 more times. Spoiler alert: he didn't get it. He still hasn't gotten it right one time. Who is the lead singer of Guns N' Roses?
Really? I could see him not
Wow.
getting that.
Yeah.
His response was, the first time, I only know Freddie Mercury from Queen and Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. While incorrect, doesn't answer the question.
Right.
Still pretty proud, gotta say.
Yeah.
Check for dad.
Unfortunately, as I've said, I've now asked him 2 to 3 more times since then. Still doesn't know the answer. So I'm not getting through to him on that one.
Is he guessing someone now?
Not really.
All right.
Not really.
I mean,
He's basic. He kind of remembers that the last name is Rose or Roses or
Yeah.
something like that, but he can't come up with. And then he wants to know if who in the band's last name is Guns. Anyway, what was the best-selling video game of the 1980s?
Super Mario Brothers.
Any other guess? Pac-Man.
Pac-Man? Really? Wow.
Charlie eventually did come up with Pac-Man. However, it took him a while. His first answer was Mario 64, which I thought was
That's cute. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Specific,
Phenomenal.
but cute.
64 is not the year, guy.
Right.
Best answer of the night.
Pretty good
CD
graphics first time.
Yeah, right. CD players first appeared in 1982, but what does CD actually stand for?
You will not know this.
Yeah.
So compact disc is obviously the correct answer. Charlie responded with cease and desist. No, wait, copying disc. So he got the disc part right, but missed the first part.
Nice.
What is the name of the evil wizard who featured in the animated show He-Man?
Skeletor. I'm curious. To look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skeletor is the correct answer, and Charlie got that one right. So
Nice.
self-high five on
Nice.
that. I love this one. In The Karate Kid, what is the name of the karate dojo where Johnny Lawrence and his crappy friends train? The correct answer is
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Does he watch the show?
Charlie? No.
Okay.
Oh, great show.
Charlie came up with Dragonfire,
That sounds pretty
Okay.
cool.
and then he
Fairness, it's a
paused.
sweet dojo name.
It is a sweet dojo name. He paused. I said, no, the answer is Cobra Kai, Charlie. And he goes, oh, I thought it was Cobra Kai, but then I second-guessed myself because I thought Cobra Kai was just too modern.
Whoa.
So he'd
Interesting.
obviously heard of the show
Yeah.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
But anyway, what kind of
The
candy
axles
bar?
completely fell off that question.
Hey, there it is. What kind of candy bar did Chunk try to give Sloth in the Goonies?
Ooh. Baby Ruth?
Yeah.
Baby Ruth. His
100
response.
grand.
This one, more than any of them, absolutely shattered my heart. He said Mars Bar. He did not get the answer correct.
Oh.
The Goonies, my favorite movie of all time. We've watched it, I can't even tell you how many times. And somehow he didn't get Baby Ruth, so that one hurt. And then finally, in which video game did the character Mario first appear?
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong?
And he got that one correct. So 8
Wow.
out of 15.
Huh.
8
Yeah,
out of
that's-
15. So
Right.
not terrible.
No.
Yeah,
Not terrible.
for something that's sort of like decades before his own generation. That's pretty
Weird.
wild, though.
I bet
So,
you'll have to share that list with me, because I bet if I give the same quiz to Caleb, he'll probably get 8 out of 15, but it'll be different ones. Or maybe there'll be some
I'll send him
overlap.
over.
He'll definitely
Right.
get Cobra Kai because we've watched the show on Netflix.
Okay.
But we
I'll
also
put it
went
in
and
the
watched
chat.
the movies too, the original. So
I'll put it in the
So,
chat.
as a bit, should I ask my parents these questions and see how
I
they
was
do?
thinking the same thing.
wow, wow,
I think that would be
I
interesting,
like it.
actually.
I really like that.
Yeah.
This might be a segment. This might be a new segment.
Yeah.
All right. So
I was gonna
Thank you
All
say,
for
right,
that,
Eric,
Andy.
I want to hear yours.
I'm
now.
gonna test Ray too. I'm gonna test Ray and Caleb and see who gets more.
Okay.
Who's the better child? And then the one that gets the least amount correct, I'm going to donate to a lucky
Right out of
listener.
the will.
Yeah,
Right.
right out of the will. Whoever's listening wants to adopt yours.
Yep.
All right. This was a backup thing I had. This was my backup sorbet for last week. I thought this was really fun. I completely forgot about it at the end because our conversation was so long. But what it was is I was so John wrote up a bunch of stuff for me and Andy, and one of the things he put for like notes that he provided was why don't you guys like talk about your weirdest Worcester story or something that happened to you in Worcester. So it's like our little connecting thing because we're both from Massachusetts. And so I was like, I don't really have a Worcester story, but there is one
Worcester
thing.
being the Valkenvania of Massachusetts.
It's the Valkenvania,
Might
Massachusetts.
say.
I was going to go into this whole like thing where I talk about how I've always told everybody I meet about Worcester. Worcester's like a curse. And so once you go to Worcester, it has its clutches into you. And it doesn't matter whatever you do in your life, wherever you go, however old you get, what will happen is when you're getting close to your time, something just completely unexplainable will happen, and you'll get buried in Worcester. It's just a thing. It's a fear of mine.
Truly a haunted place. It's hard to describe well in a way that doesn't seem completely insane.
Yeah. Everybody dies in Worcester. I feel like it's...
Fair.
Yeah, something will happen eventually. But I was looking for an email that I had shared with John about a different thing that had happened in Worcester circa like 2007. And I came across this email that John had sent me. I don't know why we weren't texting. I'm not sure why he sent me this email, but I thought it was fun. And one of our friends at the time, I had reconnected with him. This was a high school friend. He was into writing. I was kind of getting into writing. John was always doing writing. And so we would talk about stuff that we wrote sometimes, or we'd send things to each other and say, hey, can you critique this or give me some feedback on this? I guess I was away for something at one point, and John challenged our friend Steve to a contest to write the best barbecue commercial, barbecue sauce commercial. So
Again, zero memory. Absolute zero.
which
memory.
I love about this. And this is the whole thing when
Yeah.
you write something, and they always tell you, like, when you're writing and you're having, like, writer's block or something, put it aside for 2 weeks, come back to it. It feels kind of fresh. You might get some new ideas and move on. This is what, like 16 years ago? This is 2008, by the
Boy.
way. So, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
16 years ago. You come back to it now.
That's a hell of a benchmark.
Yeah. So this, I thought I'd read it to you guys because it will tell you a lot about John's state of mind 16 years ago.
Please do.
Yeah. So this is how it starts out. Okay, so Janky and I had a contest today to see who could write the worst barbecue sauce ad in 22 minutes. We each got to set one criteria for something to include. My criteria, Paul Newman. Steve's, mariachis. So, I don't know where this came from.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's how it came out. This is Steve's ad, by the way. Opened at a rodeo in Mexico. A midget mariachi band is playing Cash's Ring of Fire as Hawaiian Tropic models try to stay on top of angry bulls. None of the girls can stay on for more than a second. Paul Newman steps out in a cowboy outfit holding Newman's own barbecue sauce. Pretty soon, medics are swarming the rodeo, ambulance carrying away injured models. Tagline, you can ruin any great idea if you put the wrong kind of stuff on top. Trust Newman's own barbecue sauce. So,
Okay.
Not terrible.
no,
Yeah.
that's not terrible.
He had an idea that, you know, there's a concept there for sure.
He had something.
Yeah.
John's being modest. Let's see what Johnny came up with.
Okay.
John's is a little long, so I will do.
Well, this is a
Shocking.
I will
hallmark
not
of
do the
writing.
Johnny's voice, but I mean, this will not be the voice that Johnny uses when he talks, but this will be the voice Johnny hears in his head when he doesn't want you to hear what he's actually thinking.
Appreciate
Okay.
that, buddy.
Open on a sunlit Mexican villa. Paul Newman relaxes poolside on a deck chair by a tall Weber charcoal grill. A 5-piece mariachi band plays in the background. Hola, muchachos. I'm Paul Newman. South of the border, people know their barbecue. That's why I only grill with Jack Daniel's Hickory Barbecue Sauce. Jack Daniel's sauce is made with the tradition of timeless quality and character. It's got that real Southern outlaw flavor, the kind you only find where white man's laws don't apply. The mariachis suddenly drop their instruments and faint to the ground. Paul looks back and smiles. Cut to a dimly lit basement. The mariachis have been stripped to their underwear. Oh, there's more. They've been stripped to their underwear and chained to the walls. Paul Newman enters stage left, wearing an apron. They awaken as he walks in. He carries a wide basting brush and large metal bucket of sauce. Robust and full-bodied, complemented with that original Tennessee whiskey flavor. Jack Daniel's Hickory Barbecue Sauce, for when it's gotta be good enough for Newman's own. He starts slathering sauce on the chests of the mariachis. Fade to screaming in Spanish. What the fuck have you put out there in the ether? What is this?
Okay, I have one follow-up to this. When are we filming that?
Oh, God. Okay, that's my next Rebel Scum question.
Pod.
Pick the mariachis.
Oh, man, I want to do that so bad.
Okay.
Johnny, any context for where any of this came from?
I think I plead the fifth.
Time out. So this was you said it was
2008. 2008.
So where were you at this point, John?
Not
Really
in a good
mess.
space emotionally.
Obviously.
Right. Oh, Christ. 2008 would have
bastard.
been. Janky and I were working at this company called Raytheon at the same time. He was down in the Florida branch. I was working in central Massachusetts, so we would text each other a lot. I was extremely unhappy and bored at that job, so this is how we kind of came up with, like, you know, this is just the kind of thing we kind of come up with to kind of like amuse each other, like over like the workday. You describing that, still no memory, nothing coming back.
Wow. Wow.
Eric, could you read that last line again?
Oh,
quick?
wait. Sorry. There's a reply to this email. It says, I'll be up there in a week. Let's make it a thing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My brothers said yes. That's awkward. Okay, yeah. What was that, Sean?
Could you read just like the last line of my ad one more time, please?
As long as I don't have to scream in Spanish.
Okay.
Okay. He starts.
Ay, Dios mío!
Que lástima. He starts slathering sauce on the chests of the mariachis. Fade to screaming in Spanish.
That's crazy.
Are you ashamed? Does this bother you?
I'm ashamed, but so proud of myself at the exact same time. This was.
Look, that's a 22-minute challenge with a lot of pressure. I think you came out pretty good in the end.
Yeah.
You could have been a writer for Adult Swim. You know that, right?
I don't want to create any kind of dead air here. I am just I'm overwhelmed by just a lot of feelings. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I read this and I was like, man, he probably hasn't had sex in what, like 3 days, 4 days? It's catching up.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, like a lot left in the tank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, that was amazing. So, yeah, that's pretty much. Unless there's any kind of just sort of further kind of closing thoughts or anything else, coming attractions for next week. We're going to be continuing our SNL cycle, Lost in Translation, the 2000 and something, 2000 and what?
Was it 7?
Sophia
2008?
Yeah, earlier than that, 2004 maybe. Sophia Coppola film. Really looking forward to kind of talking about that movie. A sort of slow, quiet, observed, one of just one of my favorite movies of that year. Really one of the best kind of films of just a movie that so perfectly kind of captures the experience of just being out in Japan for the first time and just having your mind kind of completely blown. A bit we're going to do for that podcast is I will have been back in the United States about 2 days at that point. A 7:30 p.m. Record session means I'm going to be severely jet lagged, possibly not even kind of coherent. I think we actually have to designate either Andy or Eric as kind of like a sole survivor kind of situations, because like the odds are I may pass out sort of midway through the pod.
We must have an email about this. I know, if not, I know we talked about it at length because I hadn't seen this movie at the theaters when it came out. I wasn't even aware of this film at all. And my parents were like, so this was 2003. I looked it up.
Right.
I had just come back from studying abroad in Japan, and my parents knew I was missing Japan, so they're like, you should watch this movie. And they brought me to the theaters, and I watched it. And my dad was watching me the entire time I was watching the film. He's just like, it was good, right? And I was like, that hit way too close to home.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Really?
No,
awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I've only seen it one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a long time, so I'm looking forward to giving it another shot. I love Bill Murray, so
Yeah, very good. And, that'll also be kind of going on from like the Dan Ackroyd thing. We'll kind of we'll spend like a bit of the pod kind of discussing the movie itself, but I think also speaking like a little bit about kind of Bill Murray and like what particularly kind of guys our age, what a major kind of presence he was for us in kind of like a lot of the comedy, like a lot of the movies.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Napone, thank you kindly for joining us. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It was a good time.
Yeah. How was the? We've seen a couple pictures, but how was the wedding ceremony?
It was good. It was quick. Like the whole time there was like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
With taking pictures and like the ceremony part. It was I don't know how to describe it. Naveen had some good humor in at the beginning of his vows.
Nice.
We'll have to ask him to
Yeah,
recite
Luigi,
them.
help with this.
I'm not sure if he's viewed it at all, if it came out very good, but I think Teresa took a video of it and shared it with him. So
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, he's been sending us a ton of pictures, so I mean, it looks like it was beautiful ceremony.
Like Hawaii is amazing. Looks like
the family. I haven't been to Oahu in years, so I mean, it was cool to see how it is now.
Absolutely cool. Well, looking forward. I'm going to try to make my way out to the Northeast soon, so looking forward to kind of seeing you guys. Looking forward to kind of congratulate kind of Naveen and his wife in person. So.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to see you. Come on out.
All right. So that's all I got. So, gentlemen, thank you kindly. That was episode 17.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
All right.
Napone.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right, later.